the Whalers, the Seals, the Americans, the North Stars. Who's gonna stall? Who will go far and earn the keg? Who's gonna earn the keg? We'll find out in time. Give us a holler on the whoop line.
It is a Christmas miracle. The Monday Night Lights podcast is back, a yearly tradition like no other. Brian Piercy here with Charles Mackey and Andrew Hedis running late from his Tinder date.
Yeah, I wish it. Actually, don't wish it was a Tinder date. But is Mike on?
Yeah, just bring it
Mike
closer.
is on. You got to bring it closer,
yeah,
buddy.
No. Yeah, I wish. No, definitely not.
What about you, Charles? How's it going?
I didn't get as much as Hedis did last night, apparently, but on his not Tinder date. But I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for asking.
That is good to hear. As always, you can give us a call on the Whoop line, 714-75-WHOOP. Email the podcast at mnlhl.com. We have our Twitch account. We have our YouTube account, Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever. I don't know how we're active on any of those. I think there's also not mnlhl.com. I think Troy's account.
That's what I thought, but
I mean,
I'm not positive anymore.
No one knows who it is.
I don't know if Troy's really that creative for some of that stuff.
Penny thinks it's me, and
It could be you.
I'm not clever enough for that.
Yeah, you are. Get out of here. You're 100% clever enough.
We have a record of all of your articles you've had over the year. You have the cleverness in you to come up with some of that stuff.
Yeah, but I'm too lazy. Let's go with that. Anyway, it's not me. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I'm not going to confirm nor deny, but I'm denying.
Either way, so we're back for Christmas Eve. Any big plans for the holidays?
Just going to see my mom tomorrow, but I've been busy with work and just trying to prep for an impending. I accidentally reproduced on purpose. So we're pending our daughter coming in mid-January. So we've been kind of preparing for that and just making sure everything's all ready. But it's an MNL miracle that Charles Mackey is finally having progeny. So here we go.
Him and Sugar too.
Sugar is due the day after we are in the same hospital, so we're planning on seeing them. It's going to be very exciting.
Was there some kind of funky stuff going on? Some little panty party that happened that night?
I don't want to say that that Sugar assisted my goal prior to me going home in spring MNL hockey and conceiving, but because he wasn't there. But
well, no, it's definitely moot.
We thought I was going there though. But yeah, no, I think it was just a fun little coincidence. I think I'm not 100% positive, but I'm 99% positive it was a coincidence.
What about you, Hedis? Anything going on?
Not much. Just family, Christmas stuff. Not a whole lot.
Perfect. So let's move on.
How about the host though? What about you?
Yeah, what about the host? That's what
I'll be
matters.
going to my sister's later today, and then my parents host a larger family get together on Christmas. So I got plans both days. Lots of football the next couple days as well. So that'll all be fun. So I haven't been here for a year. We won't worry about last season or the spring because it's only spring as much as some of the spring GMs love to hear.
All I'm going to say is when you can draft Brett and Proctor on the same team, it makes spring pretty easy.
I will also say that they only won one game and we only lost one game. So I think that the spring league title is contested, but I will also leave it at that.
You have to count the ballots again.
But going into the new season, we did have some news that we should go over real quick. We had a couple of GMs leave us. We had Busta and Dougie Fresh. Technically, Ryan Allen actually stepped down as GM as well. So we had a lot of turnover there. Skillman is a GM. He ended up bringing in Judge to be his GM on the Tigers. I ended up Piercy, not Brian, according to Drager. I ended up joining forces with Troy. I mean, the evilness kind of matched us. So
yeah, it was a good matchup.
As the North Stars. And then that left the Maroons to fold. And we ended up having a spot for a new franchise. We ended up bringing in the Scouts with Ryan Allen is now back from the dead as a GM. And his partner is Sips. So let's start from an announcement standpoint. What was the thought when you first heard that?
I was cautiously optimistic. I know Sips is a great guy, and I know Ryan Allen is a great guy. These are two guys that I think are too nice for their own good together. I think Skillman was a great foil to Ryan Allen because he's, as far as I know, and please, the trade deadline's over, so I can say what I want to say. He seemed like, from what I've heard, he seemed like he was very ruthless in the ivory tower. And so having that as a foil with Ryan Allen, I think was good, but I was concerned hearing that he would have Sips as his counterpart because I think they're both good cops. You know what I mean? So
Before we go to Hedis, because I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say on this
I
topic.
I'm not gonna.
I will say, I think there are a lot of points where Ryan Allen he gets a reputation as a nice guy, but he's not. He is one of those people who will throw out. He kind of assumes a sale type of thing where he just tries to do something and assumes everybody else, and he gets mad when people call him out on things. He's a nice guy overall, let's face it. But in some of those situations, he's more like, oh, here's what we agreed upon, or here's what the consensus was. And it was like, wait a second, I don't remember any of that. And I'm a pretty stickler for reading all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So the thing with me with the scouts was I don't understand why Ryan Allen stepped down to only run again, where if there would have been an open franchise, he could have been just like, well, me and Skillman are going to split. I'll bring in someone I want. Instead, we had this big roundabout thing where we brought in some GMs for the spring meeting, kind of had them all talk. It had to be voted on, and somehow they got back. So I'm just not sure why he stepped down. Maybe he didn't think there was going to be a full franchise open. Maybe he didn't realize Busta was going to be kind of moving on, but I thought it was a little bit strange there. What were your thoughts with the selection?
Yeah, what you said actually echo that almost identical. I think it mainly was that he didn't realize that Busta was stepping. I always do this with the mic. Stepping down. I think if he had realized that, he probably would have just picked up that empty slot in that franchise. But I echo the same sense. Both of you got sentiments that both of you guys do as well. I feel that, I like Sipsy, I like Ryan, and maybe we don't see that, me, Charles, and the rest of the league, that Ryan on like the regular is a little bit more bad cop. But from like a outside fishbowl kind of vantage point that we're at, it seems like they're both kind of like nice guys a lot. And sometimes you do want, that foil, like where it's like you had Ryan and Skillman, or you had Busta and Troy, or you and Dougie, right? Not that you're like, a bad cop. I don't see you going out there breaking people's like knuckles with rulers and whatnot. Give me the trade. Give me the 10 p.m. ice time. But yeah, I definitely think that I was a little bit cautious kind of coming into the season. And also from my vantage point too, because me and Ben had also put in a package and we wanted to become GMs as well. And then I think there's a couple other people. I don't know if Drake and Serta had, or if they were 100% or not, but there's a few people like went to that spring meeting, like you mentioned, to talk about that open GM spot. And so, I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm not disappointed that I didn't get it. I mean, I'd love to try to run a team. I've done it in the spring before, but by the same token, I mean, I'm glad that like Ryan's done it before. He knows what he's doing. So, I mean, like, I'm not terribly, mad that they got it.
And he just came off a keg win, so you can't discount that. Like, that was definitely part of Ryan Allen's behavior. So good for him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. But how do you feel about the trade they made?
We'll get to that. That's coming up in the format. That's coming up a little bit later in the show. So.
I did miss you in the locker room after you left. It was kind of hard not hearing your loud mouth, but
someone's gotta bring the noise, baby.
I know. So I'm scared that if it's not me, then it's gonna be Cam, and I'm more nervous about that because it's just noise.
It's Cam, dude.
He's
good. Yeah, sorry. We'll get
I love you, Cam.
So then another one of the things that we changed kind of going into the draft was we changed the draft format yet again. So in the past, we've done a ping pong draft for what goalie you get. We've had this round is a goalie round, has to be. And to me, it always took a little more strategy out of the draft. It made it more for, I'm going to call it the simpletons with their drafting strategy of like, hey, this is my goalie, or this is when I have to pick it. I'm not thinking about an actual strategy around any of this or not. So I think me and Hedis kind of talked through this originally. Was one of the biggest concerns, we have an odd number of rounds, and if you have the first pick and then you can draft a goalie anywhere, you probably can wait and not actually get the last player in the draft as well. So it's kind of a big advantage. So the thing that we actually decided on doing is we did our normal ping pong ball selection, and then we did another round, but it was a wild card round where we ended up being the 6th round. And then the 11th round, if you had the first pick, you still had the last pick, but you had to actually the rule was you had to take a goalie before the 11th round. So I personally wasn't a fan of the 6th round for that wild card thing. I wanted it to be the 10th round. It is what it is. But what was the thoughts on this format compared to all of our other wild card formats we've had in the past?
From a goalie standpoint, I definitely like being drafted. No, I like being like now seeing how the season's kind of rolled out. I like being drafted first, but also it could kind of it depends a lot on your player personnel. I feel most of all because when there's a larger disparity between goalies, it does make drafting your goalie sooner or later mean more. It means that being in the draft, you actually have to have, like Piercy mentioned, a strategy. Do I take, Johnny G? Do I want to roll with I don't know, a Riley and get a really stud defense and activate from the back? Like there's different strategies you can employ and going into the draft. So I didn't mind. I there's a facet of me that does like that idea. But I would almost at this point kind of like seeing those goalies be random first to a degree, because then it lets you build your team, and it is, like Piercy said, a little bit more for the simpletons. But if you're trying to reach ultimate parity in MNL and have all the teams be really equal down to the last 4, 5, 6 games this season, it might make it easier for the GMs going forward to do it like a random goalie round. But they're not to be wishy-washy. You're wishy-washy, Bob, but there's pros and cons of both ways of doing it. But I mean, I definitely see there with a larger disparity being a reason to have a disparity in goalie talent, the reason to have them separate from the draft. God, that was
Charles. What did you think about the change?
I like having goalies in. I think that it's like everybody's saying, it adds to the strategy. It makes so that you're building your team with your goalie rather than as an afterthought. I don't know to what extent people are actually making decisions on, I'm going to take a lower caliber goalie, which we all have great high caliber goalies in the league, but there is a top and bottom. But and I'm going to take a lower caliber, but then have a better defense. And then just given the fact that we didn't define a goalie round, but we had a goalie round de facto was it the 6th?
Yeah.
And it was the wild card round?
I think it was the last pick in the 5th is where the run started. I think the Seals took Santhi there, and then it just ran through and left the Americans kind of
right
in the spot where it's like one goalie left. Obviously, you're going to take him in the 10th round at that point, because why wouldn't you?
Right. And I love Whoop, but I think that him taking Santi was a great choice, but I think it was an accident. He was, if you guys saw Whoop at the draft, he was very much not all there.
I don't know if I agree with that. I was hearing there was rumors going around. You never know with Troy how much people are truly telling him or what is he's kind of just putting out there. But there's a lot of people that were thinking the Scouts were going to take Santhi in the 5th round.
Oh, really?
Him and Ryan Allen are buds, or at least work together or something. They was going to take that there. And that's where the North Stars at least thought the goalie run was going to happen.
Right.
And I think in our mock drafts, we were like, okay, well, we're 6th round. We're probably going to go there as well. But we thought, we'll get somewhere between goalie 1 and goalie 3. Instead, we got the 6th goalie selected for that. So it worked out pretty close to where we thought it was going to work out. Just Whoop pulled the trigger a little bit sooner. And realistically for the Seals, it worked out great because, you take someone way too early and nobody else follows. Now you've lost a round caliber player.
Yep.
Now everybody else except one team takes a goalie in that same spot. You're not really losing out that much player wise, and you're getting the goalie that you think is the top goalie in the league.
I think them getting Santi and then turning around in the middle of the 6th and picking up Allen Z was, I think that's going to put them late into the playoffs. Just that decision making. So I think it was a great decision. I am still kind of trying to think on whether or not how I feel about
Like the goalies being in the draft. I think
they should be in the draft, but I think there should be kind of like if you're sacrificing mid-round talent, like it's a little bit less of a risk. So I feel like if you can find a way to make them, you have to like get rid of like one of your early picks for a goalie. I think that would be great, but it's hard to enforce, and I think it would be weird. But I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I kind of agree. There might be a better system to employ, like maybe not the 6th round random round is like, and then like, oh well, I'll draft the goalie in the 5th. I'll draft maybe next year the goalies go run in the 4th because Jay Flo was drafted for the Ducks, or the Whalers like 4 years ago now or something.
Jay Flo was drafted, I think, in the 4th one year, but I think he was like the only one, and there wasn't a goalie run. So I guess the question I'd go back to Hedis is, if we keep this format, maybe the wild card round is different, but goalies could be drafted anywhere. Where goalies go earlier, later, or the same next year.
I think it's going to be dependent on when your wild card round is. That's for me, because if your wild card round is like in the 7th or the 8th, you're not going to sacrifice, because it's almost like a pseudo fake round, right? Because like I'm in the 8th, I got drafted in the 8th round. Panny got drafted in the 8th round. I think you were in the 7th. But like if you were to eliminate that goalie round, those picks, and bump everybody up to like one more round, you're actually a 6th rounder. I'm a 7th. Panny's a 7th. And the way kind of the chips have fallen this season with like the new people that have been added in the league and the goalies kind of ended up working out like to everyone's about equal to what their round is if you remove the goalie rounds. So ultimately, I think it's just gonna be based on when that like wild card kind of round is, because you don't want to be left if you're drafting without a choice unless you're okay without a choice and you've kind of have planned on that. So it's like, oh, the 8th round comes around. I'm not like those goalies aren't going to be drafted like you're not going to have someone go and draft Santi in the 2nd round, right? And then just be missing that 2nd round center or 2nd round defenseman that like locks down your 2nd line, because you need that player to help, the benders in your lineup, right?
But for the viewers at home, I'm now sharing the draft screen, and like, here's a question. Okay, Santi or Allensy?
Santi. Sorry, sorry, bud.
Santi
I love you, but
Santi or Cone?
Santi.
Santi or Pellet?
Santi.
Santi or me?
This is a joke.
Those
where are we going?
Those were the next 4 players.
Yeah.
After the goalie run.
You have to take Santi there. I'm sorry. Like these great guys. I think.
I mean, it helps that he's been arguably the best goalie in MNL history. So I mean, that's what helps about it. Yeah. Right. But I mean, okay, better. I mean, to like a superlative to that question, like if they went and if Whoop liked seeing Johnny G this spring, goes, oh, I'm going to draft Johnny G instead. Johnny G or Allensy. Johnny G or Pellet. Johnny G. I'm taking Allensy over Johnny G. Bluntly honest. Like,
okay.
Also, according to Fem, Shawnee ruled the majority of that draft for the Seals. I want to say from my hearing is I think Whoop might have had control of the last 2 picks in the draft, and that's
why there was like it was completely illegible. And I was like, did I get drafted to the Seals?
I will also say this, and this might not be a popular opinion. I don't necessarily. You don't want a team that's out of the early and don't want to play anymore. That sucks. But it's not my job to worry about parity. Right. We're not a dynasty league. You're not stuck on a team forever that stinks. I've been on teams. Unfortunately, I've never been on a team that missed the playoffs, but I've been on teams that have struggled through that. And I've had some bad times, and it's not fun, but you got to get up, you got to try type thing. But, if we were worried about parity, why don't we just have all the GMs sit in a room and construct 7 teams?
No, not interested.
To try to make it as even as possible.
I think that just with all this conversation, I don't think we should be restricting goalies to 10th round or sooner. I think if you're the last guy, you get to sacrifice a bender and have your last pick be the goalie. I think that's totally fair. And I also think that maybe having the wild card round, like maybe a round sooner, like in the 5th round instead of the 6th, might kind of like solve some of these problems. But
so getting back to the wild card round, as I will say, is the Whalers had the first pick overall, and they drew first for the wild card round, which gave them essentially a big jump and a big swing. It's kind of the breaks there, but that's part of the reason, at least in my head, is I like that wild card round being later, because if your first pick overall and then they still win that, it's less of a big deal in my mind.
Right. But could we I mean, what are the odds? Were they 1-7 just like everybody else? Everybody had the
Yeah.
same chance.
Yeah.
I think if you adjust those odds, I think you solve that problem. You know, there is a chance that the Whalers get it, but it's like maybe a 1 in 21 chance instead of a 1 in 7. Then suddenly, like you are encouraging some of those mid, I guess, 4th and 5th picks to get that first pick in that round, which might solve that problem.
Well, I'm sure everything will flip on its head next year, and we'll
That-
totally reconsider everything, and nothing will be the same. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was gonna say too is we're kind of stuck on this like how the new draft format ended up being and how the goalies kind of panned out and kind of devolved a little bit into team parity, and some of that parity in the league that exists among the teams is actually down to the GM draft rounds, which I mean that's a whole other topic entirely. So
Yeah, that we could talk about that for 2 hours, I think, and then not have consensus at the end.
Well, yeah, that was a tough one because a lot of players. I think it almost happened to everybody after the goalie round where they were at least a round higher than what they should be because people weren't expecting the goalies to go there. So I think everybody got hit the same, except for maybe like a Shawnee, a Troy, people like that. They were probably a little bit more legit in their value, but a lot of people, like when you look at the goalies going and all of a sudden I'm a 7th rounder, all of a sudden Panty's an 8th rounder. If you know the goalies are going ahead of time, you'd probably bump us all back around, but kind of is what it is.
Yeah. GM picks are tough.
I just meant more so like the GM slots in the rankings, for example.
Yeah.
Like Antioch's always been like
Is he a 3?
he's a I can't remember. Right now.
Antioch was
He's
a 3.
He's a 3.
No,
he wants to be
a 3.
Yeah, he wants
He
to
was
be a
fighting
4th.
for a 4.
And then they just
In the past, he was a 2.
I don't think he's a 2 though.
No,
I
mean
think 3 is closer
this-
to where
this-
he needs to be.
before this season, I could have said, yeah, maybe I could see him as a 4, maybe Ryan Allen as a 10 or something. But then after his most recent surge with like the superstar Deeks line, there's no way he's gonna be a 4th. But
I was going to
that's
say,
all
if
I'm
anything,
saying.
Antioch has a better chance of being a 2 than he does a 4
Nah,
next year.
he's just.
I think he should stay at 3.
He's just a 3.
I mean,
But-
it is
yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, I'm just using
Sometimes-
as an example though. It's like a GM round that could fluctuate people or kind of have a different opinion on, right?
One of the things with GM standings is really draft position in my mind as well. Is there are times where if you put a player, pretty much any player, with a bad situation, they're not going to perform. So does that mean their draft stock goes down? It probably is going to. Or I always use Peso as an example. There were times a couple of years ago where Peso didn't have his best season. Maroons drafted him. We put him on a line. He kicked ass all year. All of a sudden his draft stock flies up. He's also a guy that will regularly score, but he's a guy where if you don't put him in the right situation, he's not going to look the best. You put him in a good situation, he's going to look like a superstar, and his draft stock is going to fluctuate like that too. So if I'm a GM and I put myself in a bad situation all year, I don't know if I should get the benefit of that the following year if my skill level is at a certain range.
Right. And I think we need to be cautious about the amount that we'll let go. I think that I love the Scouts, great guys, but I think this is they're on thin ice, I think. And they did do well after this trade, and I think that's going to be really good for them, but it was a little too late, and I hate to say that to you because I saw you walk away from the Tigers without your consent, but I think they do have a chance, but it's like an exceedingly rare chance, just because of how late this trade happened.
Well, do we want to roll into I guess there's the uniform topic too, if we like the jerseys this year.
I was going to say, I think overall, I thought the Seals logo was bad, but overall, I think all the uniforms were pretty decent. I like the colors of the Seals. I just don't like their logo.
I think we need to do better at having discrepancy in color. But beyond that, I think that in general, it was a good year for jerseys.
I don't think we're ever going to get away, like even just dark, like a dark color, like a dark blue versus a dark green. I don't think I think now we're just like, whatever, wear a white if they're too close. And
we have like two whites.
I
though,
feel
which
like
is weird.
I feel like the purpose of that GM meeting in the summer for everyone to sit there and talk is for you guys to hash out, we're going to choose red, we're going to choose yellow. And then when someone just says, oh, screw you guys, I'm going to do my own thing. And then they choose like a different color entirely. It's like, then what's the purpose of having the meeting to talk about the colors in the first place? You're just wasting everybody's time.
What else could they possibly be talking about in that GM meeting if not colors?
Draft rules, positions, lottery things.
I don't give a shit about that.
Player
I want to see
safety.
how you look.
Yeah,
Player safety. Screw that.
I'm still
we still have MNL backwards on the back of our jerseys.
Yeah, we still got MNL backwards.
Actually, really
on the
nice.
back
I
of
got
it.
2 jerseys now.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm still about the reversible 2 colors, but everybody's like, oh, they're too heavy that way. But yeah, we had these thick jerseys from before that nobody cared about because they had patches sewn on.
As at least and maybe still the heaviest MNL player, that extra couple pounds is not a big deal, guys.
yeah,
We'll be okay.
I mean, it slows down that drag. It makes you go from a 7th to an 8th rounder.
I would love the opportunity to catch Proctor.
So another new thing that came about this year was MNL fantasy hockey. You know, I think there's some people participating. It seems like it's fun, the little write-ups. I'm not actually playing. I retired from fantasy sports, but what are the thoughts on the fantasy hockey?
Oh, it's great. I mean, I've talked offline a little bit to Panny about like engagement for like the league, because I think the biggest thing is just like you miss a week or two and then you're just so far behind you don't even want to play anymore. So then you don't care. So I mean, he kind of recognized that too, and that was his main initiative. He kind of just took it on a whim. He's like, "Hey boys, we're doing fantasy hockey MNL," and as like the input stat bing bong guy, like I'm just like, okay, sure, whatever you want, man. And my policy this year for fantasy, or just in general for stats, it's like if you find a correction this past like in the week, or like even going a week farther back, so within like a 2-week periodicity, I'll change it for you, as long as like I'm not taking away another assist or a goal on someone on your team, and or if you can say, oh, actually it was Charles that scored, not Sugar. Sugar got the assist, and Sugar comes up and tells me that, then I'll change it. But I won't just willy-nilly add in stats so to pump someone's fantasy. Like, oh yeah, I chose Simmer, and Simmer got 4 goals and 2 assists. Or I chose Piercy, you got 3 assists. Or I chose Hedis, I got 5 goals. I'm like, that's not, yeah. So I don't know. I've enjoyed it as a person that's been participating.
Yeah.
Since the beginning. I just would like to, and I know Pandy's talked about it. Would like to see maybe like quarters next year, or like just shorten it. Be like, oh, the first rotation fantasy. They don't have the second rotation fantasy. So if you miss it, like let's say you do, your 6 games, and then maybe like something built in where it's like, oh, I miss a week, it's not a big deal. I can get rid of my worst week, and do something like that. And he's open to the idea. He's receptive to it, but he didn't want to change it because people had already bought in this year.
Right. I think, obviously he did a great job, and it's great to see people in the league taking initiative to do these sort of things to make engagement a little more fun. I'm not a fantasy guy, so I didn't do it, but I totally understand. I hate the idea of like matchups, and then it just like your win or loss is dependent on whether or not that guy is actually a decent picker. So, but I also hate like you said, hate the idea of like a full season and you have one bad week and you're just kind of screwed, or you miss one. But
a couple things I was thinking about is maybe if you don't submit your lineup, you automatically use last week's lineup, so you kind of can still continue to get points. I mean,
That's
worst
kinda
case
cool.
scenario is you have a guy on the bye.
Yeah.
I would also like to see something with like, I was kind of thinking about this, like maybe you have your scoring system, but like all Rick's points are multiplied by like 1.01, and then all of Brett points are multiplied by like 1.02. So someone like Gumas is multiplied by like 1.71
I see.
or
that's
something
kinda
like that.
cool.
So like
Yeah.
those lower rounds, all of a sudden, if they're getting points, it's like bonus time.
Oh
So
my
you
god!
get-
All
yeah.
the nights I picked Piercy, I'd be out here
That would
rolling
be-
in the dough. Let's go.
That's a great idea. I love that idea. I am all in on this idea. I will play next year if we do that.
I can't tell you how many games I chose Charles and myself, or you, or Panny, like or Chad.
yeah. I'm a
Guma would be
zero
the most
goaler this
popular
year.
fantasy player in all of MNL.
It's smart. Guma's been very good the last couple of years. I've been so impotent in this last season, and I'm really struggling to find out why, because I feel like I'm playing the best hockey I've ever played, and I cannot score.
We gotta get you the Austin Sarnazak super short stick. The stick that's like this big,
Please
tall
no.
guy, some short stick.
I can barely handle my stick alone, and that's the stick that I got from Goose because I was playing with a too short of stick already.
Oh, maybe we have to get you a bigger one then. I don't know.
I'm ready.
I definitely think it's a fun idea. The write-ups, I do enjoy reading those. I think there's possibly some tweaks that could be made, but like you said, it was kind of a first year thing, and
Yeah,
obviously MNL is all about tweaking stuff, probably
Yeah.
more than we need to.
Yeah, you're all about growing pains are going to happen. I think if to make like an illegal lineup less devastating would be better, because I don't think they're done. Obviously, they're not done maliciously. It's done by accident. But you have to draw the line in the sand, and I understand that. But I think next season, if you can find a way to make it not so punishing, where you get like 0 points, I think that's how it is right now, right?
Yeah.
Maybe like an illegal lineup gets like 0.5 or 0.25 of the points they should get. Or
You
something.
lose your top guy, something like that.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. You lose your top pick.
Yeah.
I meant just like half the points for that one player you selected that's an illegal thing, or like get like 10% of the points selected for that.
Right. I think it has to be a little harsher.
Or maybe
than
just
that.
a 0 for the one guy. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't pay
'Cause-
attention to the rules enough to know how that goes.
Yeah, you can't incentivize it, because even if a guy gets 42 points, you get half, and you still get 23 points. Awesome.
Yeah,
know?
like let's go, King.
And Fem is also mentioning an in-season MNL tournament, maybe like the NBA's doing this year.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, it's like hockey wise, like
Maybe. Well, I think the NBA,
Or,
like
like,
regular
fantasy,
season games
yeah.
are part of this little tournament, and then they just have like a playoff of the top 4 teams or something in the middle of the season. Like maybe the Christmas time or New Year's would be like the finals for the in-season tournament or something.
I mean, as long as it doesn't have playoff implications, I'm all in on it. I don't like the idea of that being like something where it's like, oh, does this guy get an automatic buy-in or an automatic buy in the playoffs because they won the in-season tournament? No, it shouldn't mean anything other than like clout.
All players that are on the winning team get next year free. I'm joking.
That's almost as worth as much as a keg.
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
honestly, that's more than a keg. I mean, the reason why they even did that tournament in the first place in the NBA is because they wanted to mimic like European, like soccer and European competitions, like the UEFA basketball organizations in Europe, where it's like each country has their league and then they have like their own league cups. So I mean,
Right.
but that's an entire another topic, entirely different. I mean, I'm not sure we could really do that MNL sustainably.
We do
Never
need
walk
to,
alone, bud.
Never walk alone, baby.
One of the things I've been meaning to talk to Drake. I know we've talked about trying to become a nonprofit, but my buddy that I used to work with before he took the buyout, he has a lacrosse, no, rugby league. It's in Detroit Rugby League, and they're a nonprofit. And GM has like a GM giving thing where up to like $500 they'll match. So he had like 3 guys at GM in the league, so they would just all like their league dues would just donate it. It would be a donation, and GM would match every one of those. I'm like, we got enough guys in GM where we could get like an extra $2 or $3 grand by essentially doing those donations on top of that. So
I'm a GM husband. I'm happy to do that.
Priya could donate to MNL Cares.
Exactly. Are you ready to pay for my season, Priya? I know you're not watching right now, but you promised to watch the recap, so just remember that.
Ooh, I like that. That's commitment right there.
So let's move on to a little bit of in-season stuff. So we did talk about the Scouts.
Yep.
They did make a trade. So let's kind of review that real quick. So the Scouts, they've been behind in the standings. We've been waiting. One of the things I will say is a couple weeks in, they weren't looking great. There was a couple positioning things that I saw. And I just sent Sips a message, like, not even to try to, like, I'm not going to try to fleece you. I'm not even proposing trades. Guy doesn't even respond back to me. I mean,
He left you on red? Maybe he's not the nice guy I thought he was.
I don't know. I mean, Sips, he might not be around Slack for, a week or 2 at a time, and then he goes crazy.
Well, that
Who
explains
knows?
it.
But
Explains
I
those
don't know. I don't
diatribes.
know how that's been with, the Scouts channel, anything like that. But anyways, they ended up making a trade. So they ended up getting Kimmel, the returning Kimmel.
Which is
Well,
great to
I
have
mean-
you back, Kemmel. It was such a good time playing with you for the amount of time we did.
Do you even want to talk about like the standings now they look right now for the fans at home?
But
I
we'll be
mean-
doing that after this.
Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, we're going through here, then we'll go through there, then we'll talk about who will make the playoffs, who will win the keg, plus any other things you want to blab about. But so Scouts got Kimmel, Hedis, and Ryan Z. Tigers ended up getting Ben, Myers, and Cam. So I would say on paper, I feel like the Tigers got a better haul. But so far, one game into it for the Scouts. They had, I think, like a 5-1 win, a pretty impressive win. Tigers lost their first game, and they got 1 point last week, I believe. So
Yes.
I guess we actually have 2 guys.
Yeah, we have
One
both
guy on
sides.
each team. We'll start with Charles. What did you think of the trade, and how do you feel about your team now?
I loved the trade. I was sad to see Kimmel go, but I always love playing with Ben. Ben's a great locker room guy, and he's an excellent. He can feed well when he's on, so I really like that. The thing about Cam and Ryan Z, on paper, in my opinion, I think they are pretty evenly matched as far as goalies go. I love Ryan Z. He stresses the fuck out of me. I am always sitting there in the locker room, 5 minutes to game time, watching that door, waiting for Ryan Z to walk in, because he is always a last minute guy. And I had him for the last 2 seasons. I had him last year, and then I had him for the first half of this season, and it just stresses me the hell out. And I love watching him play, and I think he does a great job. But having that no warm up, and then also like in the beginning of the season, kind of seeing him like give a couple of softies in the first like 30 seconds of the game, was very stressful. So sad to see him go, but kind of excited that I don't have to feel that stress anymore. Although I will say that Cam is a
different kind of stress.
He's a late bailer. He is a late bailer, and I love you, bud, but give me a break. Like sometimes you got like, hey, I can't go. It's like 8 p.m. You're like, what the hell? I was in San Diego and I saw the message come out, and it was 5 p.m. San Diego time, and I'm like, that's 2 hours away. You're 2 hours from game time, bud. But other than that, though, I think he thrives on having a good team in front of him, and I think he's getting that with the Tigers. And I think that the loss wasn't really on him. We gave him a lot of odd man rushes, breakaways that he when we played who do we play? It doesn't matter. But it wasn't his fault. I think he let in one goal that I think he could have saved. The rest of them were like, that's on us.
Has he brought techno music into the locker room yet?
So week 1 he did not. I don't know how it was last week because I was in San Diego.
He bailed.
And he bailed. That's right. Okay, so I guess he didn't. So no, not yet. But he did say like, we need more music in here, boys. But I thought we were having a pretty good conversation and we didn't need the music. But whatever. Overall, though, I will say, yeah, it was. I love having Myers on the team. I love having Cam, and I love Ben. So I think it was a good trade, at least from me having fun perspective. And I think it'll pay dividends. But we just need to get through the new year and reset.
And then Hedis on the other way, you got traded over to the other side.
Yeah.
So what have your initial thoughts been about being a scout?
I like the locker. I mean, you like everybody in MNL, right? Like you're not a part of this league if you don't like the people and the players you play with. Right. So I had sub about, I don't know, like a month ago maybe, for the scouts. And Peso, Proctor, the usual cats in the room, and it was a good vibe. Taking my like scouts hat off and my Tigers hat off and just being like an objective person looking at the trade, it bewildered me beyond belief. I was at like a boys' day, doing nerd stuff, playing Warhammer, just getting drunk, doing nonsense on a weekend, and Skillman hits me up. He's like, "Hey, dude, like, I traded you." I'm like, "Well, anything to get your team better and or the boys better, and anything to get the other team better. So yeah, you got to do what you got to do." Like I'm happy for you. I'm also happy to join a new team. What team? He's like, "It's the Scouts." I'm like, "Yeah, cool, awesome." My first impression from like a player standpoint, and I guess I'll put the hat back on, from a player standpoint, was sweet. I get to be on the Scouts. That's awesome. I want to get like our goal, our championship as a scout, like as a member of the Scouts is to get to the playoffs. That's like our championship. So we're going to be breathing, dying, clawing, trying to scratch every point we can to get the leapfrog the Americans and get into the playoffs. And anything we can do to make that happen, whether, it's like the good amount of subs, good matchup deployments, trying new line combinations, anything we can make it happen. We're going to, Sips and Ryan are open to it, and it's a team dialogue, and I feel like we're going to, try to get there and make it happen. And we're off to a good start. One game we've played in so far.
Do you feel like your voice is heard with them? Your voice? Because I think you bring a lot of opinions to the table.
I bring a lot of hot takes and also bring a lot of, I don't know, too much analysis sometimes. Rumors
were that Alan and Sips gave you free reign to survey the landscape of trades.
A little bit, yeah. They let me hit up some of the GMs and kind of poke around and prod, see if there's like, hey, anyone's interested in making a trade or doing something else. At the end of the day, it's their team; they're gonna have the final say. But at the end of the trade period and at the final turn of cycle 2, the only trade that did happen was with the Scouts and the Tigers. But there were a few trades on the docket. For example, there's another trade actually including me, possibly to the Americans. So Crunk had reached out to the Scouts, and there was a like a 2 or 3 player back and forth trade between the Scouts and the Americans. I think that involved like Peso and myself and somebody else for other players, and didn't end up panning out. But there was definitely a lot of chatter this year, but not a lot of public discourse about it. And prior years, I'd heard like 3-way trades happening. Like, oh yeah, the Deeks are going to trade with the North Stars, and they're going to trade with the Seals. This year, everything was very close to the chest. So,
what's your injury timeline look like when are you back?
That's another thing though. Is objectively taking my hat off. The trade, I kind of agree with Piercy. Like on paper, the Tigers won the trade. You don't, in my mind, you don't really trade. You don't get the best player in a trade, and also get rid of the worst player, if that kind of like makes sense to a degree. And also, like, if I was the best piece in the Scott, so like objectively speaking, Ben is higher than Kimmel in the draft, right? People would say Cam and Ryan Z are kind of washed. Some people think Cam's better. Some people like that think that Ryan Z's better, and Cam.
Right.
They bring up different problems. And then like me and Meyer are kind of washed. Some people think I'm better than Myers is, but I'm injured right now, and I won't be back to play until late January.
That's a long time.
Yeah, so
especially
that's
when
like,
you're fighting.
Did the Scouts
for the
know this at the
playoffs.
trade time?
Did they ask you what your timeline was?
before they traded me, no,
Yeah.
but I don't know if they saw me at the rink or not in my boot. I mean, because I showed up the week prior
Well, I
to
think
in a
we all-
boot,
at least
so
I thought everybody knew, at least from a GM perspective.
I'm
You were
assuming
out.
kind of.
I think if I would have been pulling that trigger, I would have been like, when's he supposed to be back?
Right,
I
yeah.
mean, unless
I think their ultimate idea kind of
they thought Kimmel was Kimmel and everybody was that valuable.
Sight unseen is a very risky deal when you're, but I guess I understand that you have to when you're like on the cusp of being eliminated in January, right?
The only thing I would have liked them to do, I mean, again, with the Scouts hat off, is for if like you can make that trade, that's fine, but you got to make that trade like 2 or 3, 4 weeks sooner, right? You got to make that
Agreed.
like 3 weeks sooner because you need more time for the trade to mature, right? And then B, you just need more opportunities to gain points with the team that you have. So it's just kind of like you don't know if the things are going to fit, so you want things to mature, but then like if you do this now with like 5 games left, it's almost like too little too late. Because I was like talking to the boys, we have to go 5-2 before this past Monday. We had to go 5-2, and the
Right.
Americans have to go 2-5 for us to catch them.
Did the Americans win on Monday?
And they won on Monday.
So they have one more win they need to get.
They have more than that. I think they have to get like 3 wins, like mathematically speaking.
Right.
But we have to kind of almost like win out to a degree.
Right.
But thankfully, one of those games is against the Americans. But I mean, if we can get we can get 4 wins and maybe one of them's against the Americans, we could probably catch them if they end up only getting like another win or something like that. Because the other thing too is they won in overtime, so it's like not 4 points. So there's a lot of math
Yeah, that's
involved.
right. They were against us.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, there's not a lot of runway left. I mean, I don't mind being in that like underdog role, swing up the fight. I was at the Tigers, I think, a couple years ago when I came back from an injury as a goalie, and we won like 6 out of the last 8 games or something, and we leapfrogged 2 teams to get into the playoffs. They had all these great goalie stats and stuff. So I don't mind that underdog role, but so as a player, I don't mind it. I like it being traded. It's kind of like I can take that crown from Chad and I can wear it. But as a objective person from the outside looking in, it's a little peculiar.
So I will also say that so I was on the Americans a couple seasons ago where we did not make the playoffs, but the thing was like we had a run in the second half of the season and we made trades, and again too little too late I think on the trades, but it ended up we were mathematically eliminated in the penultimate week. So it was we were very close, and we had like an opportunity, and it was like it wasn't our fault. It was like we kept winning, but the other team also kept winning, and so the last week didn't end up mattering. But that's the concern I have is with the Scouts. I think it was even later with the trade, and then they there is a pathway to make the playoffs, but it is exceedingly difficult, and there is too much that they have no control over. You know what I mean?
I got the standings pulled up for on YouTube right now. Just looking at it, like we said, you guys have a game in hand. They have 14 points. You guys have 7. So obviously it's must win situations from my quick math, because we have some of those columns hidden with, your total points, that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing, I think the Americans can get 23 points total. You guys can get 19. So you guys got to cover 4 points, really 5 points to pass them up. So that's, considering you have 7 points through 12 games, that's pretty tough. But you got some new players. You're 1-0 since then. So,
And we still played them too.
Do you have a win against the Americans? Like, would you hold
No.
okay, so you wouldn't hold the tiebreaker?
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's an uphill battle for sure.
Right. Okay.
That's why I would like to see the trade prior to playing the Americans the second time.
Exactly.
But it is what it is. So, and then on the other side of the standings, though, I mean, you do have the Whalers up there with 30 points. Not the transition to a.
well,
the rest
real
of the
quick,
league,
that
but-
was kind of the next thing, but we'll go to Mackey for this one to be nice. Is there any way the Scouts are going to be able to pull this off and make the playoffs?
I'm sorry, no. It's not. It's not going to happen. But I think they clearly are going to put up a fight. But they're just behind the eight ball. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. I'm happy to do that. And I really hope that I'm wrong, because I think that because I love Rallin and Sips, and I like Crunk and Ty's tie. But I am disappointed I didn't get one more shot at Riley. And he was saying the same thing. He was like, oh, I it's kind of a shame because I'm still at 0 goals. And
Yeah,
and Riley's a great guy, but he is the most accessible for me on scores. He is still
John
the only
G.
guy that's ever given me a hat trick.
Johnny G will give you some goals too. You got a game against him still, right?
Yeah, I still gotta do like with Johnny G. I gotta play like when you have bubble hockey, like that guy. Like you just turn from the side. That's the only way I can score on Johnny G is doing that like windmill from the back.
Yeah.
But I plan on it, Johnny G. That's my move. Be ready for it. You're still gonna fucking miss it. But
even with a game in hand, I'm afraid it's too little, too late. Obviously,
right.
Every time the American gets more points, it's going to be that much more trouble. You can't really lose points. I don't see it happening. Right now, it's unfortunate. Hopefully, they'll have a nice second half of the or third, turn of the season, and play some fun hockey. Get some subbing opportunities. But outside of that, having a hard time seeing it happen. Hedis, thoughts on that? I mean, it's always.
I mean, I'm on the Scouts. I mean, I definitely think that we can catch the Americans. If we beat the Americans, that's 3 points. And if we win our game in hand, like if we play against the Tigers this week, you guys are out a bajillion people with subs again, and we roll in there and we can steal 3 points. I mean, that only puts us a point behind. So
Yeah, that's the thing. Like if we come and play, then we kind of put the nail in the coffin. But if we're missing people and we're not feeling chemistry, then we absolutely will give you the opportunity. So I would rather not, especially considering where we are in the standings. Kind of like outside looking in on that bye. I would much rather not drop a game, but I do think it really depends on if we're healthy.
So moving on to the top half of the league. Whalers currently in first place with 30 points. North Stars 24, Tigers 22, then 19 points for the Nordiques and the Seals. I think it's fair to say, considering my math says the Scouts can only get 19 points, I'm going to say all those teams are in. Right now, the Whalers, they have a 6-point lead for that top spot. I think it's pretty safe to say they're probably going to get a bye. I think that's a lot to make up in that last turn.
Mhm.
Everybody has 5 games left there.
And they're 2 games ahead, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Hedis, who do you think will get that second bye?
this is going to be a right field haymaker. People are like, what? The Nordiques.
That's not a right field haymaker. That's
No one's
very much. They've
been playing.
They started soft and they've been playing great hockey.
I'm about to say their past 6 games, they're 4-2. They've been playing like lights out lately. They changed their formula on their lineups, and it's worked because Pete just loves to eat up that stupid. Oh, I'm the second line center. I'm Luke Glendening meets Darren Helm meets Mike Modano, and he just like shuts down whatever line he plays against and plays with like the two benders, which is Jim Ellis and Aaron or Hardcop, and as benders, like they're all effort. Like there's a Charlie Hustle Award being awarded this year, and I could see it going either one of them too, because they've been grinding on that second line with Pete, and like it's great too because like for the Deeks it means their first line can be loaded with Chad, Antioch, and Pfister, and kind of like I mentioned with
Don't let Chad hear you say that.
Earlier with Piercy, like Antioch's had a bit of a resurgence this year. Chad and Antioch play together on the Vipers, so they have a little more chemistry. So now they're playing twice a week, kind of together in the same line. And Fister makes anybody good he plays with. So, and he's a first rounder, right?
Yep.
So all three of them together on the first line, like other teams can't necessarily even match that. So other teams can't even do the same thing where they put like 3-star players on one line and put like a 4th star, quote unquote, on that second line, because not everybody has 4 forwards in their first 4 rounds. Most people don't. Like the North Stars, feasibly, you guys can't really do that because you don't have like 5 top forward players. Your top 5 has a defenseman in there. You guys have Lepoudre. The Tigers, same thing. Like we can't really do that, or you guys can't really do that because you have
Right.
Shannick, I think, in your top 5. So,
But at the
Yeah.
same time, then is that defense too weak to pull that out?
you would think so on paper because it's like, oh, it's Panny and it's Sukas and it's Kyle Bauer. Kyle's not a defenseman traditionally; he's a forward. But they've done it by committee. They've just kind of all chipped in a little bit. Chip, where's that in the Slack, right? Chip. They've all chipped in a little bit, and they've all done it by committee, and they get their matchups right. They make sure Pete in the second line go against another team's second line, and oftentimes that second line with Pete still outscores other teams' second line. Like I remember they dunked on the us Tigers the first time they did that.
I wasn't there for that game. I was out of town, but I did play the most recent Tigers.
Oh, that's fine. Sorry, most
Nordiques.
recent Tiger. Yeah.
I feel like we controlled play and gave it up. So like, gave up like an odd man rush or someone sniffing around in the neutral zone, that sort of thing. But it was very much like when you went in, like it broke down. And I think that we're not giving, like, for example, Panny enough credit. What round did he go? What round was the?
I think he was an 8th. I think to me the Nordiques.
That's probably right.
They also
actually,
also have a lot of K-Falks. They play a very.
Yeah.
We're gonna just everybody push in and kind of play K-Falk style of defense. I think their weakness is against the rush.
Yeah.
I think that's where you need to score. I think when you get it in their zone,
Exactly.
they're pretty good about just kind of muddling it up.
And we had chances and we didn't secure them.
They're pretty goony. It's like
I wouldn't say that.
bordering on. I think Bauer and Suokis are both pretty goony.
Well,
I think I'd say Bauer's borderline dirty play, one of the dirtier players in the league.
Haven't
Personally,
felt that. I don't know if I agree with that, but I will say that like I think Suki gets kind of a bad rap. I think he's a big guy who like aggressively plays the puck, and I think he gets a little more crap than he deserves.
Suokis is a big guy, plays the puck with his body, but if he gets touched, he falls down and cries.
I do agree that he occasionally embellishes, but I do not agree that I wouldn't call him a crybaby. But fair enough. I understand that. But I see that, and I think that like for example, like I said though, like Panny's a smart guy. He knows how to play hockey, and he knows his limitations, which makes him a really good defenseman in my opinion. So I think that's difficult enough, and then you kind of have to. And Pingrazi will not let you anywhere near his fucking crease, and it bothers the fuck out of me. But I understand, and I'm like, hey, you know what? That's your crease. I get it, but stop smacking me in the ass.
Yeah,
He's chilled out over the years though. I think like a couple seasons ago I got really mad at him once, and he got really mad at me, and then we quickly apologized, and I was kind of like salty about I was pretty
Did he send you an edible arrangements?
honestly, like, so I was yelling at him like after the play had gone away, and Troy was yelling at me about not letting things go, and then in between periods he apologized and I apologized back, and it was fine, but I was still a little salty about it the rest of the season. Ever since then, I think it's been a lot. I've had a lot more. I've understood him, and I understand. Like if I'm playing in that blue, like smack the shit out of me. But I think I was playing on the line just close enough that I didn't deserve to get what I've gotten. But and I think he's gotten better about that. But he does still like he owns that. He's like, this is my crease, and fuck you if you get anywhere near it. And
obviously,
hey, I love a goalie that does that though. Yeah.
Obviously, that with the North Stars having the 2-point advantage, I'd like to believe they're in the driver's seat. I don't want to just be a homer though, and also Sugar is expecting as well, so he could miss a week or two of time for that, which could be
That's part of what I factored in mind.
Could be a problem there.
That may be. I planned it out so that my bye week is right after our due date.
Okay.
So I get away.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, you know me. Like I could plan 40 weeks ahead.
I actually joked in the locker room last week. I was like, well, maybe you'll have the baby during Christmas time, because we get next week, or we have Monday off, obviously the following week. Then we have a bye, so we essentially had like a month off of hockey.
Ooh, that's rough. That sucks. I have that because I was off last week for work, and it's kind of brutal. Do we have a skate going? I know we have one on the third. I think it's Thursday or Friday, but I can't make it.
Yeah. So, but for me, outside of the North Stars getting the second bye, I'm going to go with the Seals. I think, Santi's there. I think Shawnee and Fem are starting to pick up their scoring. They are actually only the third team in the league that has a positive goal differential as well. Every other team has negative goal differential outside of the Whalers, the North Stars, and the Golden Seals.
Yeah,
Wow.
but if you remove a few of those games, those outlier games that are like 8-goal games, though, like they scored, like the Seals have one game they scored like 8 goals with Fem, and Shawnee scored 8 goals or something.
Yeah.
And then the Tigers have 1 too. So there's just a few teams in there that have or like North Stars. I know you guys have 1 or 2. If you take out a couple of those games where it's just 8 goals, like most of the teams actually have below a goal differential. So there's a few things why I didn't choose the Seals or you, for example, the North Stars, because Sugar's your main goal scoring threat. And I remember I posted some stats in Slack. Sugar was like the leading goal scorer of all time MNL up to the halfway mark this year. So like if he's missing for like two weeks, like that's huge for you guys. He's even got more goals than like Drake did last year, or like Matt Taylor did. He had 2.8 points per game, and Matt Taylor had 2.66 in his like super year. So that's a lot of your guys' offense. So if he's missing, that's the only reason why I probably chose the Nordiques. Not only, that's one of the few reasons why I chose the Nordiques over you guys. But
and then Charles, who's your pick for the other bye?
Again, forgive me, Skillman, but you can't trade me anymore, so fuck off. As we are currently playing, and as other teams are currently playing, I have to give it the Nordiques. I do. It's I like everything that has said. I agree with. Again, Pengrazi is a solid goalie, and he's going to keep you in every single game. And given what I've seen with their Bender defense, and like you were saying, I think Hardcop 100%. I agree with that Charlie Hustle award. I think watching him play when against us, I was like, holy shit! Is his brother Nate is a stud. And I was like, is this Nate or is this Zach? Because I can't tell right now.
The one thing I just thought of that I wasn't even thinking about before is, with the North Stars being up 5 points though on the Nordiques, they've already played each other in that last round as well. So that makes it a little tougher. Yeah, we played last
one, right?
They did, but you don't have that head-to-head to gain 3 more points. Is my point. So that could make it a little harder to pass them. But I think anybody in that 19 point and above area has a chance at that last spot.
We're all competing. We absolutely are. But again, I just think that, and I agree with Sugar maybe missing a week or two, like it may be enough for the Nordiques to come up. And again, you're gonna get a good sub, but I think Sugar is he's a great playmaker. Not even just the goals, like he moves the puck around really well, even with his benders. So I think that that's going to be hard. That's going to be missed very much if he's away.
He's a 200-foot. He's part of the group of like 8 guys in this league, and you'll find all the best teams that have ever played in the league and the better teams play in the league. You have like 1 to 2 guys that are like those 200-foot, 180-foot, like they can cover the entire rink. Like they transport the puck from end to end. Like Sugar's one of those guys. He's a top end guy that does that. Fem's another guy that kind of does that. Serta may not be a first rounder in people's eyes, which he probably isn't, but because he doesn't score at the same rate as they do. But he's the same. He's another guy that does that too. He's going to be able to escape Pete, another guy that does that. Chad will say, no, don't tip Charmy. But in my mind, Chad's like the lower end guy, can kind of really do that.
You'll see him come back. It's really good.
Yeah.
I think,
and so the teams that don't have that, and then are trying to replace their first round guy or their second, or like an integral piece that plays center with someone that like maybe doesn't do that, like a Brett. Like Brett's going to score goals. Brett's not going to play 200 feet of the ice.
Brett does a lot of effort, and I think
Oh, Brett.
the problem is that he's on my line, and it takes me a while to get up the ice. I'm getting better,
Oh yeah.
but I looked at a couple of live bars, and I'm like, who's that guy? Oh my god, that's me.
Hopefully Ben can help you guys out there.
But I will say, like, he was well missed, but we did have Sugar as a sub, and Sugar had just played for the North Stars, obviously, and he still was like hustling it better than most of us. You're like, oh, he's still going. Like you said, he's still going 180 feet, and he already played a game, and he played hard, and he's still like ahead of like some of us. So it was, like I said, he's gonna be well missed. He'll be well missed.
So obviously we'll finish up with keg predictions. So one other thing before we go, biggest surprises so far of the year. It could be players, either positive, negative, just general stuff on the season. Anything that stands out.
I'll do three. I'll do three quick ones. I'll do a team, I'll do a player, and I'll do like a GM or outside whatever league thing. One player, Simonelli's been playing. He is arguably up there for better of the year. He's outplaying his draft round by at least a whole round full. Not even a couple picks. Some people play out a couple picks, like, oh, that guy's really stepping up this year. Like Harkop, Charlie Hustle Award, probably outplaying his pick by a couple picks, right?
Yeah.
But set up in position to succeed, like Piercy mentioned. However, Simmer's just playing like every week he subs every week.
Good for him. What a good guy.
I guess a minor shout out or a second player in that list really quickly be Santi. Santi's probably been the best goalie MNL has ever seen. So I mean his stats support that. So he's been really good so far.
It's time for him to retire.
let's dial it back. Let's dial it down there, Squirrely Dan.
Just real quick on Simmer. He went the first pick of the 10th round, which
that's insane.
It's ridiculous. I also think, and I told
did Ryan Allen go in that round too?
Is he playing forward too? He's playing forward, and he used to play D.
And right? I think that was actually one of the things I think I've told Simonelli in the past. He should be playing forward because there'd be a lot of times where he'd be rushing the puck or he'd come back, but then he could possibly get beat like going backwards or certain areas where he's like perfect as that forward because he's got pretty good hands. He has some pretty good hockey knowledge. I just don't think as we get older, his backwards skating and that speed we're going down when you're having those, one-on-one rushes coming at you was one of his weaknesses on defense, and he doesn't have to necessarily, especially being a 10th rounder. Now, he could even be a second top guy on a line, and he's probably the third guy. He doesn't have to worry about a lot of that stuff, and he can really take his strengths and put them to use.
Yeah, 100%. A team's kind of like, I guess, like surprised me this year. Like on paper, I'm like, I'm not sure they're gonna be like, better than they are, sort of thing. It was actually the Nordiques. Because they kind of built their team in the past with Pete on it, and it didn't really pan out well. They actually had to swap Pete, and we know how that went down. And then when it ended up, North Stars went in a keg. But so I was a little surprised to see them kind of kick it up. Panty mix lately in the past 6 games have been crushing it. And then I guess like something that I was kind of like a little disappointed in. Obviously, I mean, I would have liked to have been a GM, and maybe possibly next year, there's an expansion or something happens. Maybe
you also thought there was a chance you were going to move this year too.
That did. I remember that.
That was a very slim chance. But that was like in spring. That was a lot earlier.
It was enough for people to be concerned.
I mean, by the time the meeting happened, it wasn't even close to a possibility. But
did you make that known?
Yeah, 100%. Like I did like weeks beforehand. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not part of that conversation.
No, yeah, no. I mean, everybody's got their, everybody's got their favorites and their stuff. So long story short, yeah. So, I mean, I would have liked to maybe see the GM pairings, like even like mix up even more, maybe next year or something, or maybe maybe me and Ben can swap in and take a team if there's an 8th team added, or who knows. But
I think Penny's Venmo, so you can
16. If you see something on there that says 42069, like that's not, and it's from me, that's not for the GM shit.
I'm pretty sure this isn't covered by the Hatch Act, so I think you're good to go.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
All set?
Your surprises, your happies, your sads, whatever you want to call it.
Chad's gonna hate me, because I usually do well at tempering my thoughts on him, and which he prefers, because we know Tip Jar very well, but I have been watching. I've watched a lot of games with him, and I've played against him a few times, and I feel like he's a level up than he used to be, and I know that he got the MVP that one year because of a lie, and it should have been me. But I don't think it was.
Piercy takes a sip from the water bottle.
Is this gonna be memed? I don't know. I think he did well that year, but I don't think he was MVP.
He took
material.
Sugar's MVP that year.
Yeah, I do not have that same opinion this year. I think that he is competing, and he is punching above his weight class. He is the goals that he scores, they're not like weird bounces. They are sexy fucking goals. Currently
13th in points.
And he will be upset because he doesn't have 10 goals. And I'm like, it is a possibility. It's not like, it's an outside chance, I think. Well, how many goals do he have right now?
He's got 4 goals, 7 assists. I mean,
but I'm thinking of how many sub goals does he have? Is that listed?
Yeah, I mean it's listed, but they're separate from that.
Right. I think if you combine them, then it's easy. But yeah, maybe it's an outside chance. But
yeah, he's got 3 sub goals. Yeah,
so
got a bunch of Americans.
It's like it's as much as he's doing it for his own team. He is providing value to both himself, his team, and the teams he subs for. And I'm sorry, Chad. I know usually I am the one who agrees with you when you say you didn't do that great, but he is.
This guy's made points as Proctor does.
He's playing the game. He's moving the puck around. He's back checking. He's doing everything a good high mid-round guy does. And it is a shame that he does not agree with me on this.
No love for
he's definitely a quality player. I think in the 4th round, it came down to Rakowski and Chad for us when we were going through it. We decided for the playoffs, we were looking for a little bit more grit, we called it.
Ooh, grit.
I think both players have been playing fabulous so far this year. Rakowski, 6 goals, 8 assists, where we have Chad playing, he has 4 and 7. So both, top end players right now, both play hard defense as well.
I think Rakowski is a great player, and I understand your decision 100%. I would never have made that decision.
After Rutt's spring, I would 100%. Like those 2 players, I probably would have, depending on what my team needs is, because Rutt can play, like Chad can play anywhere. He can play D or forward. Rutt can just play just forward. So it would depend on my team need, but Rutt had a great spring. So.
But Chad is like, he's always hungry. And that's the good thing. That's the good thing about this chip jar thing.
Chad eating something.
That's the good thing about this tip jar thing is he really much is like, I didn't play well enough. I made this mistake in the second period. It's like, yeah, but that didn't amount to anything. You scored 2 goals. And he's like, yeah, but I could have stopped this play from happening that didn't end up being a goal, but it ended up being an odd man rush. It's like, dude, he's hungry. He wants to play. He wants to play hard, and it's just something you cannot teach, right? And yeah, this is an adult league. You're not teaching anybody anything except Penny teaches me a lot. But in general, like, having that available, I think that ceiling is so much higher. So yeah, that's why I think he's a good choice.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say a few things for me is, well, one, not a surprise. The Scouts are kind of who I thought they were going to be. I think
I agree.
Going out of that draft, like I think when we were looking at those teams, I thought, to me, they were the clear-cut team that looked like they were going to have a chance to make the playoff or miss the playoffs. But then I also think in the preseason, if I remember correctly, they didn't look that bad. And I was like, well, maybe I'm totally off here. At the same time, the North Stars, we kind of had a rough preseason, but we never had our full team together. We kept having to sub down. We were letting people sub up against us, where it was like, oh, crap. Like, are we maybe the team that I didn't think we were going to be? And then we kind of came out springing where we had our team together. We started playing good. So unfortunately, the Scouts are kind of who I thought they were going to be. And I'll say this. I actually, in a lot of ways, and I think the Whalers got helped out a lot by that wild card round. Mm-hmm. That first couple of spots in some ways is starting to become more of the harder position in my mind to draft with, because that, like when we get Trent and Sugar like on that turn, or you get a Fem and a Shawnee, like that's really good. And
1 to 14 is a huge swing. So
it is. And I mean, you get that top 3rd round guy. And like, I think I remember during the draft, the Scouts were talking about taking Peso in the 2nd. They took Ben instead, and then they took Peso on the turn. And I know where they were coming from there, because a lot of it is like, you need to score an MNL, and Peso's a scorer. So you're thinking about that in the 2nd round. I think they passed on a flow. But a lot of times it's just who can work with each other. Proctor's almost that other guy where now, the way his ankles have been busted up and probably his knees are hurting, it's harder for him to fully skate, where you need a guy
That's our fault.
to help him out as well. Like like I said before, it's like any other player. If you don't get them in that right position, I mean, the Maroons last year, we took Sugar number 1.
Good pick.
2 years ago, we got Sugar at 6, and then we got Edge, and those guys worked great together. All of a sudden, the following year, we're getting that 14th guy, and it makes it tougher for him to work with something. This year, we get him and Trent together. So a lot of times, it's not just the player, it's the situation they're in as well. And, they just might not have put Proctor in the right situation this year.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
I think Sugar, like, he brings out the best in a lot of people. I think when back in the Ducks days and back in early K-Falks, he brought the best out in me. I think he really is like someone who can play he brings up the benders around him. I think that he doesn't necessarily need that second high round guy. It's great to have, and I think he thrives with it. I think you're right about that, but I don't think it is a deal breaker if he doesn't. That's all I wanted to say. I think he's a great guy, and I love playing with him. And it was a shame
from
that I don't.
The 2 Maroon years, though, I think having someone to be able to give and go, drop it back, kind of know where each other are, where like a Trent is or an Edge was compared to other years. I think that's definitely. I think it's almost like the North Stars defense, where you can kind of call if you have like 2 or 3 people collapse on him. It makes it harder just for. This is any star. It makes it harder on type of thing, where you get like a Rick or someone who's like just circling around the ice and everybody's just kind of collapsing. Like you need that player you can pass it to who's going to finish. Like how many times Trent's 4th in goals right now. Like or 4th in points. Not goals necessarily, but he's 4th in points. That's huge right there, where you get those 2 guys there. They can feed off each other. They can make stuff happen and just go out and take over a game.
I'm going to pump my tires here for a second.
Okay.
Back in 2018-2019 season, I played with Sugar, and I think he assisted on 2 of my 3 goals in my hat trick game, and the 3rd goal was Panny with a little softie from the point that I caught and just like pumped in, like again like the bubble hockey sort of move, but hat trick, but he assisted on 2 of them, and I think like they were great assists. They were like, it was give and goes. He knows exactly where to put the puck for anybody, and he tried to do that when he was subbing for us the other week. I missed the puck. It was right between my legs. I should have been able to catch it, and I failed. And but he was putting it in the right position. So I think he really can do what he can do, and I am nervous for you guys when he's off.
out. Yeah. I thought Jay my last little touch, I guess, or point. No, we haven't really talked about the Whalers all that much. I mean, the Whalers were a force this year. They actually had the highest points from games played through the halfway mark this year in MNL history, even more than Seals year 1. I even did the stats on it.
What's the difference? Like, is it like 5, 10
it wasn't
points?
It wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it was only like a couple points. Actually, surprisingly, I think the Whalers, they won the last keg. They were also like almost on the same pace, or like a point behind. So maybe the Whalers have to move some of their picks or something around in the future if they keep getting, number 1s and their draft and everything keeps working out well for them. I mean, maybe it's just too easy, but
I do know
it does help. It does help though that they drafted well, because like Rick, like kind of Piercy was saying, you need in this league a lot of times you need somebody that can transport the puck, can skate 200 feet. I mentioned it earlier, can play 2-way hockey,
and not be bender phobic. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, so if not be bender phobic. J-Flow will sometimes to his detriment hold on to the puck too long. But like you're never gonna get it from J-Flow. Like if you try to swipe at him, you can't really play the bodies. He can skate. Like he's a good player, and he's like the perfect foil for Rick, who's like Ovi, kind of waiting in the zone, and then the puck comes to him, and then he rips it in, or he'll skate around to like an open space, and J-Flow finds him, which is and that's part of the reason why they're the top of the standings, on top of other things.
I think that's a great point. There was something else I wanted to say about this, and I forgot, but whatever. Good job. Good point.
I also think sometimes your draft can also depend on who you're drafting near and how their draft does it. Like I think a couple of years ago when we got Edge and we had the Maroons we lost to the Seals, or I'm sorry, the Whalers based on Cam's fight and Edge's fight.
Oh yeah.
Our team was really strong that year, but a lot of it had to do with like the team that was drafted before us. It's like, oh, they're going to take this guy. Nope. kept feeling like we kept getting guys handed to us. Same type of thing where, I don't know, at least in my book, I probably would have went J Flow over Ben. Essentially, like if
Yes,
the
I would.
scouts keep
Yeah.
missing on picks by 1 or 2 guys, it's only like it's a difference. They're not that much difference in players, but if that small little difference adds up every round, all of a sudden your team is out missing the playoffs.
That's what I was thinking when I was watching the scouts in live. I was like, I feel like they're just suboptimal every round. Like they're picking good guys, but like not what they needed at the moment. And it always felt like they were just like a step behind. And I think that's showing now. I will say, this is what I wanted to say about the Whalers. Sikorsky, great guy, love him. He is weak to talking shit about MSU. And if you talk shit about MSU on Monday morning and get him going, he will lose that game in the evening. As long as he shows up, because I tried to do it the one weekend and then he was off.
That's the secret.
And I'm like, you piece of shit. Like,
Sikorsky was also the last pick in the 7th round based on keeper value.
that is not,
Which is
that does not
bananas.
make any sense to me. I think he is much better than that. But,
Clearly he is. So
Yeah.
as we're probably way longer than anybody wants to hear us go.
sure.
Yeah, fair cop.
Last thing, who's going to win the keg? I guess I'll start. And who could possibly be in the finals? I'm going to just, for the fun of it, take my North Stars hat off because I don't think that's all that fun.
I thought he was going to pick the North Stars and say, I'm going to take the North Stars hat off, and it's still going to be the North Stars.
I kind of like where you're going there, but I'm not going to go down there. I will say the Whalers and the Seals are going to make the finals. And I'm actually going to say the goalie's going to trump all, and I'm going to take the Seals to win it all this year.
I like that. That's a good point. That's a good pick.
That's a very interesting pick. Because
He doesn't like it.
No, I do like it. I just don't like that he kind of took some of my thunder because that's kind of where I was thinking. So for me, I think our king of the goaltender north and our Tendy mansion, our brick wall mansion, Mr. Kayla was going to backstop the North Stars when it counts in the playoffs, and they're going to get an unexpected dub when people don't expect them to get a dub, and it will be the Seals and North Stars in the keg finals.
I will also say, like, when Z got drafted by the Tigers and Kayla fell to us, Kayla was a Maroon before, so I enjoyed him on the team. He has got in really good shape too. Like, not to say that he wasn't ever in shape, but he's kind of like ripped this year.
Those golf rounds with you boys, huh?
Not with me. Who knows? Probably with Whoop. I don't know why Whoop can't be in shape like that then, but
I've spent some time with him at Twisted. What is that? What's that bar that Proctor loves? That
Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks. Yeah, I went with him Twin Peaks. It was 2 years ago, but you could tell that he's gained a step since then.
yeah, but Kayla's definitely gotten in really good shape this year, and it's really shown in his game. He's been playing awesome. So him falling to us was another one of those like thank you type of thing.
That is another one of the things that I have opinions about. And Skillman, again, I love you, but letting Kayla go was a mistake.
The weird thing was he was on the Tigers last year when they won the keg.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
what the hell is he doing? I would have loved to have.
I want to
Kayla.
know what that drama is right there.
Yeah. So if I'm gonna make my choice, and I will say, just as we're leaving, that MNL, you are my family. I love you. And I'm thankful to have you this Christmas. But when I will about the, I'm gonna be a homer here about the keg, but I do think it's going to be North Stars Tigers. If that's possible, it will be North Stars Tigers. Tigers have a lot left to give, and we see our deficiencies, and we're working on them, especially on like giving up the odd man rushes. Like I said,
Are you guys going to move Judge to center finally? Is that what we're going to do? I mean, you guys are going to do?
no comment.
Okay.
I have a secret
Okay.
clearance. I'm not allowed to say. That's CUI. But controlled unclassified information.
Oh, that's TSSCI. bro.
But the one team that gives me pause is the North Stars. I think we can figure out the Seals, even with that backdrop of Santi. I think we can figure out.
Can you figure out the Whalers, though?
I think we can figure out the Whalers with. I think we can. I really do. And if we get the opportunity to not face them and have someone drop them instead, like the North Stars, even better. And I think the North Stars have that in them.
So did you pick a winner?
He did not pick a winner.
I did not pick a winner.
Are you going to?
Did you pick a winner? You didn't pick a winner. Too.
I'm
I
going
said the
to.
Seals.
Oh, you said the Seals. Okay.
I hate to say it. I think.
Does it
Yeah,
have to do with your hat?
I think yes. I think I have to give Troy this one. Troy and Piercy, don't worry. I was gonna, but Troy helped me out a lot this year, and he continues to, and I have to respect that. But beyond that, I do think that the North Stars. I subbed for them. I subbed for you guys once, and it was a great time. And I think that you guys have all the pieces, and you're gonna end up on top.
See, I kind of screwed up. I probably should have chose the Whalers because Dave P broke his curse in spring with us. There's no more Dave P curse.
Dave, curse doesn't.
When you were
Why would
talking,
curse go to spring? It's just.
I don't think that counts. The other thing I was going to say when you were saying the Tigers in the finals is like if you're going to pick them, or you think Ben's going to break the curse, but
But like I
apparently
said,
not.
No, I don't. But I would love to be proven wrong, and I'm going to try my hardest to not be right. So
That is fair. Anything else you have before we close out?
Panny, if we expand, or I don't know, make me a GM. So let's do this. Let's make this happen.
again,
And not just GM of stats.
I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, this year I've been on a big project where I haven't been able to follow Slack quite as enough. I think there might have been some talk about do we have enough people? Now I don't know if we've been able to check most important thing is making sure we have a goalie,
yeah.
another goalie that's solid and reliable, and then making sure we can get the ice time. So I don't know where we are with either of those things. I think we'd have enough skaters. I think personally with the changeover in ownership of the ice, if there was ever a time, it'd probably try to lay it down coming up because if not, I'm assuming they're going to be more business-like. And if we can lock those down and kind of keep them down, there's a chance. If not, it probably would be harder and harder type of thing. But that's my thing. I haven't, like I said, I didn't follow it as much as I normally do sometimes when you get into the any chat within Slack and you're like 200 messages or, this person did something wrong or the Dylan and Drake incident, like those type of things where I come in, I'm just like, oh,
I have strong opinions
geez.
about that I'm not going to share. But,
Or not going to go into
We don't have
that
time
one.
for that.
Yeah, but I will say, just as an ending note, again, I did briefly mention this, but I mean, we did not have this annual tradition last year. We skipped, and I would have loved to have it, but
Did we not?
Yeah, we missed 22. Because I think it was because like Christmas and Christmas Eve were on like Saturday, Sunday, and it was just harder.
There was a 12-15. Actually, no, there was a 12-15-22. We just did it early.
Oh, maybe I wasn't a part of it then.
Well,
which is a shame. But that's fine. That's fine. But all I'm gonna say is I had a really hard 2022, and MNL was there for me. And it's really important to me to share that MNL is my family, and it was just so good to have that support system available to me. And 2023 was awesome. 23 was great, but I think it started because I was able to get support from my friends and my wife and from MNL in 2022. So I really appreciate it.
Hey, that's awesome. Hey, we're a big group together. Oh, one other thing, probably should have mentioned this at the start of the podcast. I think coming up on Thursday, we have the MNL Cares event for.
I will be there. Trent, tell me if I didn't actually sign up because
I believe it's Forgotten Harvest is the place.
Forgotten
and
Harvest
then,
on 8 Mile.
Then there is also, I think, the MNL party at the Aux Club later that night.
And
so.
I will be the person that you're making your tab through. So please do not stiff me, but I will be there, and I am happy to be a part of it. So
yeah,
I'm excited.
so whoever made it through all of this or is watching the replay or whatever, and you made it to the end, remember that if you have any time off and you can make it those days, make sure you do it. It's a good cause, good event to get together afterwards as well. So I think that would be important to. I'm glad I remembered that.
Great plug. I was thinking about it at the beginning.
I was gonna say it, but then you beat me to it. So, but I think on that note, I mean, we're pretty.
Outside of that, we have 14 minutes to the Lions are about to start. So outside of that, enjoy your Christmas. Everybody have a good holiday, and we'll see you after the break.
Merry Christmas.
We are over.
Yes, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, it's good.